S.H Figuarts Street Fighter Ken Masters is a part of the S.H Figuarts Street Fighter line and was released on the 21st of June domestically here in Japan. The figure retails for about 5,600 yen, but prices range from as low as the mid 3,000s to 6,000 yen depending on stores. Most online retailers will have him for about 5,000 yen, so if you're thinking about picking up Ken outside of Japan, you could probably find one for around $50 US. The Street Fighter molds are based on Tamashii's fighting body type concept, like the Kinnikuman series of figures, and focuses on maneuverability, allowing the figure to pull off dynamic fighting style poses. So if you've been following the line or own any of the previous figures, you'll know that this line is definitely a lot of fun to pose. Where this series loses most of its potential collectors, I think, is in the paint and shading, or the lack of paint and shading. Ken is essentially a retool and recolor of the first release Ryu figure, with differences in the lower half of the gi pants, the gloves, and obviously the head sculpt. Both figures have the same great articulation and sculpt, however also share the same simple finish also. The gi top, again like Ryu, is textured soft rubber plastic. However, the pants remain smooth, which might be accurate to the source material, or it might be accurate in real life, but seems a little off to me. Though I guess when you pair the two fighters together, they match, so maybe it was a conscious decision on Tamashii's part to leave the pants untextured. Sculpt wise, for me personally, is very nicely done and resembles the earlier PlayStation side-on animation of the character. Ken here is based on his original design with shoulder length blonde hair, bushy eyebrows, and he dons his iconic red gi. Initially, when seeing the promotional pictures of Ken's face sculpt, I was honestly a little put off by his face, but it sounds kind of weird, but after having him in hand though, it's not perfect. It still looks better in person than actually does in the promotional shots, or I guess anything that you've seen so far. I'm not sure if they made changes to the original design or if it was just the way the photos came out, but the face looks more, I guess, anime-esque and kind of matches a lot better with Ryu than I initially thought it would. The eyes on Ken are blue and spaced nicely apart, not too wide or not too close like Ryu's eyes. There is some brown shadow, I guess you could say, that it runs across his eyes, and I guess that's supposed to be the shadow from his fringe or bangs. Overall, the head sculpt I like more in hand, and the style definitely fits Ryu when you have them together. Paint again is pretty sparse. Most of the body is molded, colored plastic, like his pants, his gi, his skin tone. We don't get any washes. There is some shading, but overall it's a pretty clean looking figure. We get shading in the pants, especially here at the bottom. We get some at the crotch as well. Some shading here on the back of his gi and on the front of the gi here. Some very slight shading there on his arms, and some slight shading there on the back of his head. For his hair as well, it gets a little bit darker down there at the end. I think this time around Ken's not as bad or as noticeable as Ryu when it comes to shading, because Ken's gi is red. But if you were disappointed with Ryu, then you'll probably be disappointed with Ken as well. I mean, in terms of shading and paint finish. I love the articulation on this figure, which essentially is the Ryu mold, so you get a really good range of motion in the head. 360, up, down, buries his head way down. You get a lot of tilt, which is great for those expressive head poses and action poses that you need to get him in. Ken's shoulders are on a ball joint which fit into a cup, and that gives him a butterfly joint there. His shoulders, he doesn't actually have any bicep swivel, but his shoulder does wrap around a larger ball joint, so you can get that similar upper bicep swivel there as well. He does have a swivel there at his elbow, so you can move that 360. He's got double jointed elbows right there, wrist swivel, and of course hinges as well at the wrist. You can see there that he does have a upper torso cut. He also has a lower torso joint as well, so you do get a nice range of motion in his upper and lower torso. Mainly in his lower torso, he does twist side to side, and he can get down pretty decently. The gi is made of this rubber soft plastic, so it doesn't really get in the way. The lower half of his gi top is a separate piece, just like Ryu, so it doesn't hinder articulation all that much either. His belt does swivel, so you can position that up or down. Leg articulation is pretty great. You can see here his crotch, he does kick out pretty far. Not a full splits, but it's pretty good. He does kick far out and back. Sorry, he does kick forward and back, the full splits there, which is great. He does have a upper thigh cut. Knee joints there. I think that's a single joint. Yep, that's a single joint, and it does get a little bit more than 90 degrees. He does have a swivel there at the foot, and his feet do go up, and they do go down quite a fair bit, which is great. You do get toe articulation ever so slightly, and it goes the other way as well, and he does get some pretty decent ankle pivot as well. Leg articulation is pretty great. You can see here his crotch, he does kick out pretty far. Not a full splits, but it's pretty good. He does kick far out and back. Sorry, he does kick forward and back, the full splits there, which is great. He does have a upper thigh cut. Knee joints there. I think that's a single joint. Yep, that's a single joint, and it does get a little bit more than 90 degrees. He does have a swivel there at the foot, and his feet do go up, and they do go down quite a fair bit, which is great. You do get toe articulation ever so slightly, and it goes the other way as well, and he does get some pretty decent ankle pivot as well. So for accessories, we get 3 interchangeable faces. The stern face, it's not really that stern, he's kind of smiling there. We get a shouting face here. We also get a cocky smirk, which I think came out pretty good. Actually, all of the faces came out pretty well. A lot better than the initial photos showed us. We also get 2 pairs of interchangeable hands. We get the fisted hands here, and the thing I like about these gloves is that they are matte. It's a matte finish, not like Ryu. He had those shiny boxing gloves. Sorry, not boxing gloves. He had those shiny sparring gloves on him, but Ken's gloves here are matte. They do have shading on them, and they turned out really well. We also get 2 open palm hands and 1 taunting come on hand that Ken is known for. It's his iconic pose. And the effect we get with Ken is his Shoryuken effect, which wraps around his fists, goes on pretty nicely, pretty tightly, like so. And it's a orange translucent plastic here, and it does get darker there at the end. Looks pretty nice. And great thing about this is that Ryu can also use it as well. So I'll just grab Ryu here. You can fit his fist in there, so he can also have a, or you can also use Ken's Shoryuken effect piece, which is pretty cool. So I think this line gets a lot of comparison to Storm Collectibles, and I know I compare the two lines too. The line gets a lot of flack for the lack of paint and cheap looking finish, and I'm not going to defend Akuma. That was just lazy on Tamashii's half, but for what the line I think is trying to achieve, which is a series of superposable, super fun, and slightly more affordable figures that look great together and with other figures as well, I think overall are doing a pretty good job. I really enjoy the figures in this Street Fighter series, and though I skipped Rashid, I'm definitely picking up characters from the original games, Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter 2, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you know, more from Tamashii, especially, you know, larger characters like Zangief and Bison. Ken overall, for me anyway, is a must. One of my favorite characters that I use excessively in my arcade gaming days. Yes, the figure lacks the paint, looks a little on the plain side, but it goes fantastically with his mate Ryu, and it's just a ton of fun to pose together on its own and with other figures in the line as well. So if you like the Street Fighter series, you'll definitely like this one. If you don't like it, if you didn't like the previous figures, then you probably won't like this one either. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Look out for my review of the new Figuarts Son Goku 2.0 this weekend. I'll also do a comparison video with the original release as well, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you know when those videos get posted. Anyway guys, have a great weekend and I'll be seeing you all soon.